Hi, everyone. I'm Zahava Abend, head of Ellie Miami. I hope you and your loved ones are all healthy and safe right now. And thank you so much for joining us today for the third episode of the Ellie Digital series, The Power of the Collective. Welcome. So far in the series, we've looked at how to communicate with clients during a crisis like this. And we've also looked at the lessons we can learn from these previous crises and when navigating one. But today we're curious about what the future beyond looks like lockdown right now. So, we're bringing you an expert panel with unique industry perspectives to dive into how travel trends will accelerate and evolve over the next 12 months and how this will frame the long term future of travel. Our session leader today, Tansy Kaschak, is a journalist and the sustainability editor for the award winning culture and travel site, A Hotel Life. She also consults with individuals and businesses worldwide, helping each tackle their social and ecological responsibilities with creative and innovative solutions. Today, Tansy will be in conversation with Jenny Graham, Managing Director of Quintessentially Travel. Within this role, Jenny oversees global leisure, brand experience, and corporate travel services for high net worth clients all around the world. She's joined by Serdar Kutucu, who was recently appointed CEO of Slow Hospitality following his tenure as COO at Design Hotels. Slow is a collective of people, places, and projects that are reframing the way we live, work, and interact in uncertain times. Very relevant at the moment. A huge thank you for each of you joining us today. We're going to also be opening the floor up for a live Q&A a little bit later on. So please submit your questions using the Zoom's Q&A feature, which you'll see at the bottom of the screen, and we'll do our best to get them all answered. Over on this note, I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Tansy and drop over to the audience side so I can listen in. Tansy, over to you.
Thank you. Good morning. Wherever, if you are like me in New York City, good afternoon, and hi friends from all over the world. Thank you, Zahava, for the kind introduction. Thank you, Ellie Miami, for having us in this exciting series of conversations with your community. We are surely living in unprecedented times, and even though we're trying to take one day at a time, businesses across the globe in the hospitality industry that's been widely affected by the lockdown during this pandemic need to find a way of communicate and create a strategy, create a plan to how to move forward, how to adapt to a new mentality of the market, of travelers, and of the world at large. So today, Jenny Graham from Quintessentially and Serdar Kutucu from Slow Hospitality, thanks again for being here with us. And I would start by asking Jenny and then Serdar, how are you and where in the world are you?
Hi Tansy, I'm currently in my kitchen in London. I've been now at home for the past 2 months, which is the longest I've ever stayed in my home, which is actually really enjoyable.
Nice.
Hi Tansy, hi Jenny. I'm in Berlin in our offices. So yeah, well, it's also for me that I haven't been traveling for so long, since many years, but that was actually a great time to really be focused and concentrate on what's going on here.
Right. Jenny, Quintessentially, the company you work with offers tailor-made, one-of-a-kind experiences for a clientele that most likely didn't get much affected at an individual level by this pandemic because they're people with high spending power. However, just like everybody else, they couldn't travel. And so your business got affected as well. So could you please tell us a little bit about Quintessentially and where and how are you doing right now?
So for those of you who aren't familiar, Quintessentially is a global lifestyle and concierge company. And then I head up our dedicated travel side, so looking after the global elite. With the business, it's certainly been a very different landscape than I've ever experienced with my 10 years of being with the business. We've gone through some really trying months, as is everybody else, certainly stretching my resilience and courage muscles at the moment, that's for sure. One thing remains, we're really privileged to have the level of clientele where, while spending isn't an issue, the ability to travel at the moment is a struggle, but the desire is still there. And that doesn't mean to say that we haven't struggled, and we've been going through sort of what I call our four-step program of a strategy at the moment. So we went straight into hibernation stage. Because we are a global business, we're lucky to be able to see what the effects happened in China with our office there to actually accelerate what we did for our US and our UK office. We're going through sort of agile survival at the moment, so really repivoting the business, getting used to what the new team dynamic looks like both at home and with furloughed staff, and really focusing on what the new horizon is going to be, because that's one thing I'm sure is there's going to be a really great light ahead of us.
Right. And Serdar, you as well have been in a very particular moment during this time, because after so many years with Design Hotels, March, which was the first month of lockdown, was the month in which you transitioned into slow hospitality. And I'd love to hear from you a little bit of what a slow is and how has it been for you to work on the launch of a new hospitality brand throughout this time?
Well, I mean, after many years at Design Hotels, as you mentioned, we had the desire to develop and manage our own places. And with this in mind, I mean, Slow is a brand that is not launched officially, as you're saying. So that was one of the priorities. And next to our operations of 2 places in Mexico, in Tulum and Ibiza in Spain, and 4 new destinations we're developing. So having that change in this period was somehow, I see it actually as a gift. Because I think there is, I mean, when you work for a representation company, you only have limited influence in the creation of places and the experience guests can have. So you're rather in the marketing communication side. So having that chance to move into Slow now and leading our ventures, we really have a great opportunity here to create places that we believe will be more meaningful and more engaging for the guests and the travelers in the future. So we haven't slowed down, as the name would maybe make you think of. We're actually trying to rethink everything still of what we have been discussing in the last months and weeks especially, and moving forward with the development of the places and also the launch of the brand that we aim to do in summer this year. So, yeah.
Right. And so it really worked out well for you guys to have this time of incubation and being
well, I mean, my opinion about these kind of crises is that they don't necessarily change everything in life. So they usually accelerate a long needed correction of values. And Slow was already built upon ideas that we had discussed and aligned for the future of travel. So many of those things being discussed these days are actually at its core of Slow. But what we haven't expected is that those will become so relevant on such a broad target group in such a short time. So that obviously also creates some pressure, because I mean, we have been, I mean, the Slow brand, not officially, but the company is existing since 5 years already. So for us, it was just to define all the projects, initiatives, and places to be able to launch a group brand, let's say a collective. And with the current challenges that everyone is facing, all of a sudden that name has become almost commercial, which we didn't expect. So I mean, that time that has been given to us now, let's say for the circumstances, was really very helpful to rethink our values, our strategy, our places, and our communication. And I think that we have really taken very productive and efficient advantage of that period to really prepare for how it wants that and its places to grow in the future.
right. And when you said future, I can't help but think also of all the work you've done while at Design Hotels, because a lot of it was focused on what is the future travel? What does the future traveler want, and how we as a business respond to that in a timely manner and as efficiently as possible. Now, if all things considered, how do you see who is the future traveler in the short and in the long term?
I would say from our side, it's looking at the future traveler is no longer determined by demographics. It's more by passion points and it's by motivations. What do they need? What do they want? What do they value? And very much what we're seeing is, in a way, you're seeing a certain amount of a human mask coming off. People, I don't really favor the word authentic, because at the end of the day, we want everybody to be authentic, but people are being more real. They have a desire to be more connected, to have a deeper and a more enriching experience, and stronger relationships, and that's both with themselves, with their friends and family, and with the world around them. And what we're really seeing at the moment is both on a macro level of trends. Clients, they're seeking everything from that security and reassurance, and if we look back before we look forward, it's actually thinking, if old luxury was about belonging, and then the new luxury of just before today was being, I really see the future experience about doing, because the fragility of the world that we're living in, freedom can be removed immediately. So people now want to do, and that's doing in a more enriching way, looking to see what they can do with their friends and family and to be connected. So we're actually seeing a lot of reunion travel requests to reunite with friends and family around the world as soon as the travel bans in different countries are lifted. That's one of the biggest drivers, be it 50th birthday celebrations or getting together with parents, grandparents and friends. And a lot of what our clients are saying at the moment is, I just want to go away as soon as possible, wherever I can possibly go, but I want to go with the people I love the most.
Right, and before we get back to Serdar and to hear your point, but this brings me to, I really appreciate what you're saying, because even though your clientele is so niche, they really offer an invaluable insight to the industry at large. It's a good case study and a parameter of where things are going. And to that point, I wanted to ask, from what you're hearing and seeing from them, you already mentioned, the reunion and a sense of belonging and doing things that perhaps you have been postponing, and do it because if you don't do when you can, you don't know for how long you will be able to do that. So besides that, any other specific trends you are seeing? Yeah, I remember you mentioned when we spoke before something about the bucket list planning, and I found that very interesting.
So a lot of what the team, they're really focused on connecting with all our clients around the world and actually having a proper conversation. Now that we're not rushing around as much, it's actually able to, people are at home with their families, discovering what their children actually like and what they want to do and where they'd like to go. So we're seeing a lot of, it's more about nostalgia as well as going back to places where you had a really great family holiday. So that's, instead of people wanting necessarily the new, it's going back to something that's meaningful and important to them. Lots of closer to home travel, so anything that's driving rather than flying is a key one for the immediate term. So the main requests for June, July, August that we have are, it could be 4 hours drive from New York or LA, or to the English countryside, or even across to France when different borders open up. And anything that's isolated, self-contained space, going back to nature, so people can go and reconnect and have the reassurance of the safety and security. Even the gift of travel becomes a more popular request. So lots of clients are asking to gift travel experiences for when the skies reopen. So we've seen a marked rise in that. And just going back to relaxation, reconnecting, where you can actually learn and discover, and be that could be about yourself, or it could be about a new destination, or with your family.
Right. So Dar, do you feel that resonates to your reality and what you're planning for Slow, and how you see this new reality of the future traveler?
Well, I mean, there's obviously a short-term expectation on that, and there is a longer-term expectation on this. I mean, I think that I would agree with everything that Jenny is saying 100%. Also, we see this in our places. Like, since a week, we're getting requests for our property, our farmhouse in Ibiza, for also smaller events. And I think that this period of, it's called social distancing, but it's actually physical distancing, right? So, I mean, people have probably been even more social in this period than they have ever been before. But I think that there is a huge desire to connect physically with friends and let's say the community, the wider community, and we can clearly see that. But then on a longer term, I think that many thoughts that we have had last year when we did our research on the future traveler with a forecasting agency from London called the Future Laboratory, we see most of them have become so relevant already. So we were talking about the more progressive, more purposeful traveler. As Jenny also mentioned, we don't target people by the classic demographics. We look into a pan-generational, international traveler driven by values. And in our niche, we are certainly in the niche. I think those people are really looking to connect with like-minded people. And I think they look to connect with the locality and the environment they are traveling to. So there is a deeper engagement in many ways for any trip that people will make. And obviously there is an expectation, and that expectation is to contribute to a better life, to a better health, to a happier being through every trip and every stay we have in hotels. And I think it's not about those trips being breaks of the hectic urban life, let's say. They're more to learn and connect with nature, with yourself, with others, and take that learning into your continued life and really applying it also in your daily life. So these are the things that we see are highly relevant for what we can offer from a hospitality point of view.
Right. And if you were to translate this into a practical side, so would that mean longer stays, more local travelers from within, for example, in Ibiza, more Spanish coming, besides all the restrictions, thinking here and at a point that people would be able to travel more than right now, things are changing by the day. But if you were to translate all this thinking into indeed, what should we expect as hoteliers to be prepared to deal with? Would you say that will reflect into a different kind of programming, a different kind of offering?
I think that people will certainly be more conscious about their trips. So they will certainly be more conscious when doing a trip. That may result in shorter or less trips, but longer stays. So I mean, when we were traveling with our parents, we didn't go away for 12 times a year for weekends, long weekends, weeks or other, but we were rather going for a holiday for 2, 3, 4 weeks and maybe doing this 2 or 3 times. So I think that there will be a shift into that approach where people may be able to connect with the destinations they travel, which is actually impossible on a weekend trip many times unless you dive into culture and cities. But then the other thing is that we see a great demand that will come up for destinations that connect the urban places. So I mean, if you look into England and London, for example, you have many nice places in the countryside that connect with the city for the people living in London, but also even for travelers. So we're currently, one of our projects in Portugal is half an hour south of the city of Lisbon, where we create a mixed-use experience where people can buy their houses. So we're building, in fact, 59 private houses that people can buy, and then it will be complemented with a hotel with additional rooms. So people will have the chance to choose if they stay in that place and connect the city by demand, or the other way around, and travelers will have the same. I think these kind of concepts, we don't know many yet. We may have it around London, we may have it in New York, but we don't have it in many of the European cities. So I think there will be a great demand in such direction. And then I think that, when we did, this is a funny one, when we did our research last year, we talked about different agendas in popular places and secondary destinations because of the over-tourism. So I think these days over-tourism is not really a topic of discussion. Nevertheless, I do believe that people are also in the seek and the desire for the new. So why going for the 20th time to Paris or Barcelona looking into Europe? I think it will be interesting to discover secondary destinations that haven't been so popular, but actually can offer really exciting programs and opportunities. And I think that will be a trend we will see too.
And just to your point on the duration, we're definitely seeing that the rise in long weekends, because while people may have the desire to go and travel, they're going to be having to get their businesses back up and running. So as much as they'd love to go on a longer stay, they're still going to have to be getting their teams and businesses back up and running. So we're having that mix of longer stays. So it could be a 72-hour trip right through to people who are reevaluating their lifestyle. So bringing in mini retirement. So we're seeing sort of a 72-day sabbatical request coming through.
Right. And when you say the longer weekends, I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, into a more local reality as well, and reach.
Yeah, absolutely. And just because people are putting, I think this time's given a lot of people, I'm not going to say everybody, but time to reset and revalue what their value and belief systems are, what's really important, rather than what they perceive to be important in the past. So actually slowing down, and I think for Serdar and the company for slow hospitality has such a great niche in this market ahead, because it hasn't just been born out of the environment we're in today, it's been a long thought out process. So I think for a brand to watch, it's going to be really fascinating to see.
Right.
I think that also people now in this period have really learned how to work remotely. An interesting thing, certainly. I think that, I'm not that I'm saying that home office will be seen more often, could happen, but related to travel, I think that people will dare to stay longer in places and combine their leisure time also with working time out of different destinations. So I certainly see an opportunity for this to happen in the next years. I mean, not thinking short term. I think short term, right now, everyone is a bit desperate to go out and to meet friends and people. But I think we should think of what's the next decade. I mean, what are we expecting over the next years? At least 5 years to happen in travel. That's more exciting than how this whole thing will reconnect and pick up again.
Yeah, you're going to have more of the nomadic workers as well that we've already seen in the likes of Bali and northern Thailand, with the sort of working nomadic cultures that are set up there.
Sorry, I didn't hear. Was it a question to me?
And Jenny, sorry if I just pause for a second, but I realized that there are a couple of our guests saying that they cannot hear Jenny so well. Is that still happening? Can someone flag it to us? Just want to make sure that we're not missing a bit of your great insights.
I'm on volume 67 out of 70, so I'm not sure it can go up anymore.
Okay, perfect, good. It just showed up a few minutes ago. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, sorry to interrupt that. What was your question, Jenny, to Serdar?
Oh, no, more of a statement than a question, just sort of what we're seeing, we've already seen in the likes of Bali and northern Thailand, these kind of nomadic workstations and communities that are being created. So I do envisage that probably will continue, taking into the likes of Tulum, Ibiza, etc.
Yeah, I think that there is a more mature version of what we call the digital nomads. I mean, the digital nomads was a trend of people that, mainly independent workers, let's say freelance workers, many times seen in the technology, creative industries, that actually had their office in a little device called laptop, notebook, or whatever you want to name it, and have been able to travel. So, and people could easily take their offices on their journey, but there was not necessarily a why I would do this thing. It was more to combine of discovering different places. I think the future, which you're referring to, is that people will certainly do so, but with a purpose of connecting different people, with the purpose of visiting places that are in relation to their work, that they can somehow involve in their works and learn things about that. And I think that one thing is clear. I mean, like a decade ago, there was a term called work-life balance. I think that is absolutely irrelevant because there is no work and life anymore. So the question is more about how to live and work at the same time in a better harmony. And this will certainly lead to what you're saying, the next generation of what we have seen as a digital nomads, yes.
And I think the community and the connectivity of that will be really key themes probably in the months, and well, not necessarily the months, but in the years to come.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
And I would say we see then at this point hotels being the catalysts for these dynamics to happen, and when you mentioned before, now instead of going again to Paris or to big centers, people start discovering secondary destinations. This brings actually a great opportunity for businesses at a scale which is, the most of the LA Miami community and the hotels that we are used to work with that are, less rooms and on a more thoughtful, considered setup, and how it can be, the treasure out of this tragedy, let's say, but bringing to light the opportunity of using the secondary destinations and to really articulate and be the ground for this new reality of work and play, of purpose, and all this that we're saying, finding new hubs to happen.
I think it's both, as you say. On one hand, it's new destinations or new experiences. On the other hand, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's the places that rethink what a hotel is. So, I mean, we talk about hybrid spaces, we talk about community hubs, and we talk about places where you meet the not expected things for a regular hotel. This is what the future will show us a lot. And in my time with design hotels, we have, I left the company with around 350 hotels, and we have had, hundreds of applications every year. And being at the forefront of, let's say, what the boutique hotel evolution was, we were really keen and sharp in selecting what are the future partners of design hotels. And what was very interesting, what we could observe, is that the newer hotels over the last years were always the smaller hotels. Because it's true, in fact, that as of a certain number of rooms, it's really hard, especially if you have an all-year-round business, really hard to bring together a like-minded community that engages with such new, innovative, hybrid concepts that hotels will become like. So, I mean, you refer to the LA Miami community. I believe that there is lots of potential in that niche for the hotels that are connected to this organization and this kind of travel. And I think that opportunity, but it needs to be seen and really faced as one, which means that I think this is really the time that we need to reflect and rethink what we're doing, why we're doing. And if we look back in the last years, there was so much over-promise from hospitality brands, which is in fact unacceptable. And the operations and experiences were not representing the marketing and communication of those brands. And I think I'm happy for those times really being over now. I think now is the time to walk the talk, and it's really important that the guests can make their opinion. And that requires a different level of engagement. It also requires a different empathy towards the guest and the traveler to really understand them, and will put many people off their desks and chairs where they just draw numbers of how we can grow and how much more and how faster it can go. I mean, this is simply not going to work anymore. And I think this is a great opportunity for this community, the LA Miami community, and ours like that are in this niche. But we need to face that opportunity, of course.
Right. And I think it's almost going back to basics, going back to the essence that hospitality is about humans being hospitable to other humans. And that, when I think this, I actually remind of something you said to me yesterday, Jenny, when we spoke, said kindness is the new luxury, right? And how are you, I wanted to ask you, how are you working with, and if you are, because you have this privileged insight into the minds and behavior of travelers, how are you working with hotels to help them adjust to this new reality and be prepared to receive the traveler that is eager to travel right now and within the next year and a few months?
So yeah, just you mentioned about the part about the simplicity, and I think that's really key, and where it kind of leads to kindness being at the heart of everything that we do and should do moving forward. Because if we can make our clients and the hotel guests feel happier, healthier, and wealthier in an enriched kind of way, and we're all winning, and we're creating better, more enriching experiences. And very much, it's going back, as you said, about being hospitable and what it means to actually serve and look after people. and it's moving even from being a purposeful brand to becoming a servant brand. And I think sometimes the bigger hotel groups, to an extent, have potentially forgotten that in the day-to-day corporate runnings. And where you've seen it really flourish is when you look at little coffee shops, so you look at standalone individual properties, they put their heart and soul into the serving. So what we've been doing at the moment with Quintessentially is we're doing regular quarterly consumer insights as to what the sort of change in consumer psyche is, and we've been sharing that with our hotel partners globally, and we're looking at running a connectivity conference in the coming months to give a better, deeper an understanding into what that looks like. And it goes back to that authentic, what people's needs and wants are very different today than they were yesterday. And Serdar mentioned, which I wholeheartedly agree with, is none of us want to go back to the new normal. It's probably the most frustrating coined phrase, because normal is not something where we want to play, and normal is not something that we want to go back. It's what we can go forward to, and how we can all come together, both in this community and further afield. To reminds me actually of a book by Eckhart Tolle, The New Earth, and it's like, if we can focus more on a new earth and what our new focus is moving forward, I think it's taking that spirit of kindness and serving and placing it at the core of what we all do, so we can connect and enrich better.
Right, and not limit our vision and strategy to this specific moment. That and you know that that's exactly what you said yesterday, right, Serdar? Then when I think of how you're planning through this time of Corona, you said, I'm not even planning for Corona, I'm planning for ahead of it.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, like, if you, after like, what is it, 2-3 months, depending on where you're from, living this challenges of this year's life, I think many people in my own network, social network, they also realize that they don't really want to go back into this hectic life of the pace of the life that they had been in. And as I said, you were part of our events last year with Design Hotels. I mean, we were discussing a lot about these ideas, and it sounded a bit far away when we said that, it's not just about zero impact, but positive impact. But today, all of a sudden, we realize that the statistics show what are the interests of giving, and what is the aim for a more collective approach than just the personal development idea. So these things are in fact happening, and I think that our job in hospitality is not about thinking how we can pick up the business. Obviously, with all my respect, everyone is facing challenges this year, and everyone needs to find a strategy to overcome this crisis. But I think the more important parts of that is like, what is the future of hospitality and travel?
Right. And on that note, I'd love to open the floor for some questions, because I do myself have some that are more in the practical terms. Like, of course, even though we are thinking what we would like to do, how things, we envision they should be, we still need to deal with regulations and, how things are going to be. Are you going to be welcoming your guests with a mask or not? And all these little practical details that actually become big things. And for that, I'd like to ask a question that came, let me just find it here. How are you keeping informed on all the travel policy that changes by various governments on a daily basis? And do you feel confident advising your clients in terms of Jenny, and how you, Serdar, do you feel comfortable thinking, how in the practical terms your hotel is going to be operating?
So in terms of the guidance, there's so much noise out there, and that's where the team really come into their own. They act like entrepreneurs in an entrepreneurial environment. We follow the likes of the Foreign Office as our key guide, and as we all know, that government information changes in such a frequent basis. So that is our Bible go-to at the moment. But also with it's really working with our hotels in a partnership to really understand what's possible. So if we are looking to book ahead, making sure we have the most flexible cancellations and amendment policies in place, and giving we can also advise and guide and support without fully committing to, at the end of the day, the government rules the world at this moment in time as to what borders are open and what skies are open. So as long as we are protecting our clients and serving them best by giving them the most up-to-date information, always caveated that it may be subject to change, but ensuring we are doing our part to negotiate and build travel programs and itineraries that best serve their needs and flexibilities is what our focus and approach is.
Serdar, do you have plans? Because I know you're planning to open in June, and are you thinking in the practical?
Well, I mean, yes, as Jenny says, you know, it's the
No.
countries not really all.
I think we're having trouble listening here in Serdar. Is that me only?
No, he broke up for me a second there also.
Serdar, are you with us? Can you hear us? Right. While I'll just go into the next question and we come back to that, because I'd love to hear his insight as someone that is preparing to open a hotel. A lot of hoteliers in our community are reopening, but he's launching a new brand, and I think that's interesting to hear how they're planning. But given the fact, Jenny, that the big cities such, you know, New York, London, San Francisco, LA have been hit the hardest by COVID, there's definitely a concern to traveling to these big popular cities. So what do you think are going to be the top 3 key factors that hotels in these destinations need to promote or prepare to bring for the clients?
I think this is a time to have a little bit of fun and be creative in terms of how you can innovate and come up with new concepts. I also just like, for example, you don't want to necessarily be over communicating your health and safety policies. You want to have it there, but it should be a given now, and it should be it's having that in the background, but it's everything from self-contained experiences. It's showing how guests can participate, be it in answering their questions for them in terms of what happens with dining, where do I have my breakfast. So it's coming up with really fun ways of how you can dine. At the end of the day, it's those different spaces that you can innovate with in a hotel. It's looking for what amusements people want to go normally shopping in a city. How can you work with that local retail brand to bring a trunk show to someone's private suite? What are the different collaborations and partnerships that can be authentic and genuine moving forward rather than sort of one-hit wonders, and all to serve the client? So it's looking at it's the reassurance, but also the creativity that lies ahead, I would say.
I guess navigating the line in between, making sure that things are clean as they need to be and safe as it needs to be without being too austere, without losing its identity. Serdar, we lost you for a second, but you're back, thank God.
Sorry. And you got glasses on.
So yes, as we were asking just before, and actually within still what we're talking about right now, like how are you preparing to launch in practical terms?
Well, I was hearing a little bit of Jenny's words. I think she's absolutely right. I mean, we need to understand the regulations, and then we need to be creative, and we need to be honest with ourselves to understand if for any place it makes sense to open in that way or maybe not. So, I mean, for all of these questions are highly relevant to us, and we're discussing different opportunities. I mean, there is always a chance to think of new strategies in this period, as Jenny also mentions, being creative. For us, for example, in Ibiza, we're considering to work more with the locals on the island, although we still haven't, we still see the potential for international travelers. But yeah, I think like every place needs to find their individual way, but ideally we all help each other and share those practices and learnings from that, and show each other how we can do best.
And actually on that point, something that's, I think, that's been really lovely in the past couple of months, I've connected with so many more what I would have deemed our competitors that are now our friends. We've all formed sort of community groups where we're knowledge sharing, and instead of it's not trying to outdo each other in business strategies and successes. This is working for me, it might work for you. So there's much more collaboration, which is really lovely. And everyone gets to see inside everyone's houses and meet their families. And
right. And speaking of, within all this scenario, and we talked about staycations and traveling local, but there might be arising to the request for daycations, as someone is asking us. And do you think would be a good opportunity? Some hotels already do that, so you can come and use it, the pool or amenities for a day. Not all. Do you think there's going to be a good opportunity for those that were not in this set before to open their doors to guests that might be living in the same city and just want to experience their structures in this way?
I definitely think so. Yes, I think this is depending on your location and the destination in. It shouldn't change our concept, though. I think it should be in line with the overall idea of the place and the concept. So changing everything doesn't make sense in my opinion unless there is no other way to go. But in general, it's a great opportunity to connect with the local community and rethink also for the future how there is a deeper engagement, not just with international travelers, but also those people that are in your neighborhood and in your destination. Absolutely, yes.
Mm. Do you see your clients looking for that, Jenny? Helping you organize how they could discover their own cities?
Yeah, there's been especially a mixture, and that comes more into on our concierge side of the business, where it could be organizing a special date experience. It could be building in a really family fun day or a kid's birthday, and how all of these one-day experiences. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for hotels, and I know a couple in London have been doing it with they're planning their picnics in the park for when lockdown gets lifted. So it's just constantly looking outside the doors of the hotel, and that's both in terms of the experiences that you could partner with, but also it's not just about the in-house guest.
Right. Well, let me check. Do we have any more questions? There's something about a future traveler which we covered before. I would just ask if Jenny, and Serdar, if there's anything else you'd like to mention, or if that's that one gold advice or high note you'd like to leave us onto.
Good question. I would definitely say in terms of it's going back to how you can bring more joy to your clients and how you can really look at properly serving. And in a way, it seems as if it should be already ingrained in us, but I think with the fast pace that we lived at, some of those key values disappeared. So it's actually going back to what's really meaningful, and that consumer which is all of us, that has been at home having lots of time to think, they're going to want to have much more enriching engagements and experiences. So going back to bringing the joy and serving those clients will be really key.
Serdar.
Well, yeah, certainly I agree on all of these points, and I think that if you haven't done yet, then it's really time to reflect the past years and rethink the future and really understand what we're doing. And in the world of hospitality, better leave the chair and the desk and serve the client and share with others. I think collaboration is really important. And I think there is an opportunity for all of us, given now, to face the challenge to redefine the way we travel and hospitality in general for the future.
Right. I love that you brought up the word collaboration. We saw this happening already with the so-called sustainability movement that within, in recent times has brought this dimension into, taking businesses from competitors to collaborators. So from before, I have the exclusive program, the exclusive chef and this, but stepping into sustainability, if you figure a way to do things better in a more mindful way, all we want is others to follow suit. And now in this new reality where our, so many businesses and individuals in our travel and hospitality community are still going through hardship, the only way the collective can really thrive is if we all help each other.
Yeah, and on that point, because I think it's really key, it's even if we make a 1% change every day, it's a 365% increase by the end of the year. So it's not having to make these big, bold innovations or major changes. It's just that little and often, and consistency will actually make real value.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for all of our friends and community that joined us today. I hope you enjoyed our session. The LA Miami team is going to be sending out a recap or the tools of this session. The session will also be available to be watched later. And I hope you have a great week and to find you again in the real world sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Tansy. Thank you, Jenny.
Thanks, LA team.
Bye.